Welcome back, South Philly Sauce and Audacy Original, brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels. Ashlyn and Al here with you. We are pleased to report the gauntlet is over. Thank goodness. It was a brutal schedule for the Flyers, and they actually fared pretty well. I will go as far to say better than expected. We're going to recap the Bruins, the Panthers, and the Rangers game. That's the last time we talked with you all. Big win over the Bruins. Sadly, 2 losses to the Panthers and the Rangers. But encouraging losses, I guess you could say, because of the way they played in those games, Al.
Yeah, especially, you mentioned the Bruins was such a huge win. It changed the dynamics of everything. And coming back against the Rangers was really important. We'll get into it, what happened against Florida. But, Ashlyn, they were in all of them. And that's, I think, what you look at here, that your ability to hang with the best teams. So you wanted to call it a gauntlet. It was a real good test. And in my eyes, despite the fact that they were just a shade under 500 in it, when you look at the quality of opponent and the roster situation with the Flyers with injury, I give them high marks for what happened in this with their lineup missing such crucial people like Sealer.
Right. It was a little surprising, especially when you go to that game against the Rangers and the Panthers as well. Over the last 2 games, the Flyers have outshot opponents 74-42, but have been outscored 10-6. So they're getting shots on net. They're just not finishing, which has been the issue all season long, is they get these chances, they don't capitalize. And this is where it's really going to bite you, is at this point of the season. But if we keep the big picture in mind, the fact that they're out shooting the Rangers in Madison Square Garden is huge.
Yeah, I mean, the shots on goal, you're right. They're not high danger, a lot of them. I mean, if they don't have the best accuracy or shooting percentage. I mean, if that Cupid guy was a Flyer, nobody get married because they just keep missing. That's what would happen. So, I mean, that's what you have. I mean, you don't have sharpshooters here. You got a couple, but not many. And you have to be against good goaltenders, as they've seen. You got to be really good. So, yeah, the shot advantage went their way. But more important, Ashlyn, was like the time they spent in the zone. That's what I really like, that you actually could generate some offense and get some cycle going. And I think that was most important to me, that we saw that. They just don't have that high-end talent that other teams have. Connecting's just a notch below there, getting there, but they don't have that guy, that sniper. I mean, Tippett does it with his wheels coming in. Frost at times, we've seen that coming. So, I mean, there is some options there. But they can't afford to just rely on, oh, yeah, you know what, somebody will score a goal. They got to fight for everyone.
Yes, they do. And it was encouraging as well, especially against the Rangers, where we said if they take penalties and the Rangers get power plays, they're over. This won't even be a game. And they played pretty disciplined hockey over the weekend, which is also going to be a trend going forward the rest of the season. Even though the teams you're facing are easier, this is something that they have to pay attention to.
Yeah, they only took 1 penalty against the Rangers. It hurt them, but that's a real discipline that they had there, and that's what they're going to have to. They've been so good shorthanded. Now they had a shorty scored against them, but I mean that is crucial. Should they get in the playoffs, and of course the last couple of weeks, those become. That's why we keep complaining about the Flyers power play, because in really big games with really good teams, that is such a difference. And for the Flyers not to give a team like the Rangers that opportunity, that is what really kept them in a game. If the Rangers had 3-4 power play opportunities, that game would have been over well before the middle of the third period.
It definitely would have been. And it's not a Rangers-Flyers game without a little bit of controversy and confusion. So it's fans are definitely confused as to why we didn't hear from John Tortorella post-game. We're waiting to hear as well. As of this podcast recording, we're hoping Thursday at morning skate, we're going to get some answers on a couple things, as well as Ryan Poehling's injury, because it looked pretty clear to all of us he was hurt in overtime and still out there, and he left a shift early in the third period. If Ryan Poehling actually is injured and can't go for this week, you got a big problem there, and everyone is confused about these overtime lineups. You see Ryan Poehling and Noah Tate's out there, and it's a very fair question. Why are your best players not on the ice in the most crucial times?
Well, it's a fair question when, we're in the studio looking at this and going, what the heck? Again? We've got this lineup here. I don't understand it. I mean, Bradshaw tried to come out. He came out and explained why they did this with Poehling, the skill level on the other side. But for the Flyers, I mean, their mantra throughout the season has been that safe as death. So you've got Konechny, you've got Frost, you've got Tippett. At least one of them, I would think, on the other. Even Couturier, which I still don't understand his diminished ice time still, and not a sniff in overtime with his face-off skills. I'm confused by it. They haven't done much wrong in terms of how they elected to go at games this year, but I am mystified by this. They've been playing so well in the extra period, and now the last couple they haven't. So, I mean, we got the explanation from Bradshaw. I don't know why John Tortorella didn't come out afterwards. I mean, maybe put himself in timeout after that old Sandstrom incident the previous game. But maybe, it's always dangerous to guess. But yes. I mean, and plus it's in New York, and he's been there. It's a big market. I was a little confused by that too, but I'm easily confused.
As am I, but we're waiting for answers, and I have a feeling we're going to get some clarity here come morning skate on Thursday, when we will get to hear from John Tortorella, the open locker room, and kind of figure out what's going on with these decisions right now, because they definitely make you scratch your head. And now you have what's coming up, which is Montreal and Chicago. And we don't want to say it's a gauntlet. It's a different type of gauntlet, right? Because this schedule coming up, you've gotten past the tough teams. These are teams coming up that you should beat when you look at these records, but the Flyers are going to have to play their A game, because this is upset alert written all over it, Al.
Yeah. And I think what some people have to realize, this isn't the NBA, the NFL. When you look at hockey scores, no matter what the difference in points between teams, there's very few games that are more than one goal or two is a blowout. And that's how close it is. You look at Montreal's, they played so many one goal games. I mean, it's not going to be just a case of, well, we're well behind us in the standings, it's going to be easy. Never is. Montreal's got some very good players. The Suzuki, not a superstar, but a very, very good player. And goaltenders get hot against you, as we saw with Florida. So you cannot count those points before you go there. And it might not be the big gauntlet, but they're all going to be tough. And I said it in the post-game show. It's not who you play, it's how you play. So they have to carry over those efforts against Boston and New York to Montreal and Chicago.
Big time, especially when the standings have gotten even closer since the last time we spoke. Last time we had an episode, we talked about a really teeny tiny cushion of comfort in the playoff standings. That is gone because the Capitals had a massive win over Detroit in overtime. So Caps get 2 points, Detroit gets 1 point. Flyers, great that they get that one overtime point, or else this would be a different story. But they're only now 1 point up on the Capitals in the standings.
Yeah, these cushions are invisible. I mean, it's nothing you can sleep on, literally, because there's just nothing there. Washington goes 2 in a row, and that's what I mean about looking ahead. When Washington lost Tom Wilson, we're saying Washington's done. We're going to lose him. Yeah, lose him. They've come back strong. Toronto, when they lost their best defenseman, they basically didn't lose a game. And look at the Flyers. Sealer goes down. Oh man, are they in trouble? They played pretty good afterwards. You make up for it for a while. So that's what you have to guard against. And plus, when you have a team like Washington, all of a sudden, I don't know what the heck Ovechkin did, but he's revived, and I mean he's on a major heater, and if he may end up with more than 30 goals now, and that's a real danger sign that they're rolling. Detroit, we're looking at Detroit, so it's like right now it's bad enough when you need 2 eyes to see the Flyers and Washington, but now you need 3 because you got to keep an eye on Detroit too. So it's wild. So basically, they just have to play their best game in all these, and trust that those teams won't catch them.
Yeah, it's still, you control your own destiny to an extent with that 1 point, and you just can't help but look ahead at the schedule.
You can't say that.
Why?
No. Keith Jones, who's one of the most bizarre human beings ever to walk the planet. So I once said, control your own destiny. He went on a 30-minute diatribe to me. Don't ever say that. Destiny means it's there. You have nothing to do with it. You can't control anything. And I'm arguing with him, and he's like, so if he sees this and you say control your own destiny, he will call you immediately. And
he's calling me. He's got bigger things to worry about.
No, no, this is one of those touch points with him. So I do it on purpose. And then he'll go, no, it doesn't make any sense. And he goes, it's like he's a college professor. I'm like, what? How can you get so upset about something like that? It's what we all say. He goes, it's wrong. And then we're watching TV. We're watching like a baseball game and somebody say, oh no, the Phillies control their own destiny. But stand up and they'll tell the room that you can't do that. So I just want to warn you, you will be put on notice by the president of the club.
Wow, we say that on every post-game show as opening thoughts, and we've never said it before. So why you go on this long?
Because I'm waiting for Jonesy to call you. But I still think we're right and he's wrong. I don't think he's right. But he insists that he is right. He insists he's right. And I don't think he's correct. I think we're correct saying control your own destiny. He says that is absolutely wrong. This is the only thing. It's the only thing we argue about continually.
He's saying destiny is already predetermined, so it's silly to control.
You can't control it. Yes. That's his theory.
That's some weird voodoo crap going on
I don't
there.
Know. I don't know. We'll have to see what Hartman thinks.
My point was now. You can see what he does to me. Sam Harrison, the goaltender. Yes, that's what I wanted to talk about. You're seeing that some people are saying, he's fallen off. He's not where he needs to be. And then there are a couple goals against the Panthers in the range that he'd like to have back. I loved his accountability post-game, but I still think he's where he needs to be.
Yeah, I have no problems with him. I actually, I can understand they didn't want to use him in back-to-back games, but we're in the studio saying, we're like, I think you should use him in back-to-back games and see what happens. I mean, unfortunately, Sandstrom's really struggled. Those were very, very bad goals, and I think I actually think Ersson standing up and taking such response. I didn't think he played a bad game against the Rangers. They were really weird goals for both sides. Bizarre bounces off heads, everything off the knob of a stick. The crazy stuff happened in that game. But I actually think that in part of that was response to all the criticism to Sandstrom previous game that it's a tough position. Things happen to you, and I think a little bit of it was that. But you're right. His accountability has been terrific all year, and his expectations are right where you want with a team that's got playoff aspirations.
Right. And we heard John Tortorella take accountability for the way he commented on Felix Sandstrom's play in that back-to-back. And everyone makes mistakes, and it is right after the game ends. And it was very clear that the Flyers got out-goalied against the Panthers. We talked about the entire show, but the coach can't go up there and say that. And you saw his frustration. And it's a fair question. I don't really fault him, because I think you have to go back and look and say, if it would have been 10 minutes later, would have had that same reaction? But the Flyers outplayed the Panthers, and they did get out-goalied.
Yeah, they got out-goalied. I mean, the correct answer was give their goalie credit. That's all you needed to say. My opinion is I think he was frustrated by a penalty he didn't think should have happened. It was a bad call in his thinking, and it led to a big goal against the Flyers. So I think that was part of the frustration. But really, it was a bad look. I mean, we didn't know how to react because he didn't say anything. It was just the body language, right? And which is difficult to really assess at times. But you could tell it was like he was basically. We said, well, he didn't want to throw him under the bus, but by not throwing him under the bus, he drove the bus. So yeah, that's what happened. And I give him credit for kind of rectifying it afterwards.
I do too. And now you look forward to this upcoming game on Thursday and on Saturday. And we're waiting to hear news on injuries that possibly could be coming back. We saw Nick Seeler and Jamie Drysdale make the trip to New York with the Flyers. They were at morning skate. They didn't have non-contact jerseys on. So really good sign. And I'm thinking we're going to see these guys in the next couple of games out.
I am too. I would suspect Seeler anyway. And that'll be big coming back. Now, having said that, the danger, your first game back, adrenaline, you play great. Then it's tough to get back into the swing. As much as that, I am really, really curious going into Montreal, how much ice time Couturier is going to get. Because I think it was down to like 11 minutes the last game and not a sniff at the end, and no big draws and stuff. So I'm still I haven't left that storyline yet
Mhm.
on how what they judge his play to be. I still think he's a pretty good defensive player, and I guess I'm at odds with why he can't get more ice time, especially when I see Lixell can come in and get ice time. Kate's a lot of ice time, and then Couturier kind of cut back with them, but cut back. I'm stumped by that with big games here. Why a veteran? And I'm still not sure. Atkinson, you mentioned Paling's injury, which was also an issue to me because Jim Jackson said during the game, I think it was late in the third period, that it looked like he got banged up. Mm-hmm. And if you're banged up, I think you owe it to a coaching staff and your teammates to say you're hurt. He may try to gut it out, and God knows he'll gut anything out. We saw him run into a goalpost trying to stop an empty net goal. But when that situation, where the benches are in that first overtime, you cannot get off the ice if you're pinned in. And it was like having 2.5 players out there for that. It really, really hurts. So we'll see. And that would lead the way that maybe Atkinson would get back in a lineup.
Right. And I think that tells the whole story with Sean Couturier is if Ryan Poehling can't go, how do they adjust this lineup? Do they move Coots up to the third line? Do they replace him? Does Coots still get the same amount of ice time even with Poehling out? Now I think that's the story.
Well, Coots controls his own destiny. I
think everyone else controls Coots' destiny. John Tortorella controls Coots' destiny right now.
He does, absolutely.
Not a good situation.
I think I would think that would be the opportunity that it would, and in Montreal, which would be a big deal. Get all the energy flowing there, and all the adrenaline playing in Montreal would be a spot. I don't wish injury on anybody, but should it happen, I think that would really open the door for him to take a bigger bite out of the ice time.
Mm-hmm. And we'll see what happens. The Flyers can really use 2 points in Montreal, and that is South Philly Sauce, an Audacy original, brought to you by 94 WIP and Jack Daniels. We will see you later on this week.